Hey folks, I just wanted to make a reference video for you on objectives because you're going to be writing a lot of objectives from now until the foreseeable future. So let's talk about what's in an objective and some of the things you want to do and maybe some things you don't want to do when writing them. So most objectives have three portions. They have an observable verb, a condition and or context, and then sometimes they have a degree. If it's possible, sometimes it doesn't make sense to have it, whatever. We'll talk about that in a second. So let's look at some sample objectives. The first one I have is while singing Hop Old Squirrel, students will be able to make their cutout squirrel hop on each rest. So this is a clear objective that says what we want the students to be able to do. It has an observable verb. In this case, it is make. And I guess we could say make their cutout squirrel hop. That's the thing that we want them to be able to do. So let's go ahead and highlight this just briefly and say that's the observable thing. If you're the teacher in that situation, that's what you're going to be looking for, is making the cutout squirrel hop. Now, we want them to be able to correctly do it. That's the degree. We want to make sure that they're making their squirrel hop on each rest. So that's the place where we have the degree. And then the condition or context. So while they're singing, and this is the musical context in this case, so while they're singing Hop Old Squirrel, that's when the students are going to do the thing that we're going to be looking for. So that's what we've got. I don't know if that's the same color. That's okay, we're going to live. So the students will be able to do this thing. They're going to make their cutout squirrel hop while singing Hop Old Squirrel, and when we're looking for them to do it, or the degree to which we want them to do it on each rest when it occurs. So that's a pretty good objective. It has something that we can see. How about students will be able to accurately identify the location of triplets by clapping them when they occur in Charlie Over the Ocean. All right, so what are our verbs? We've got identify, and identify is a verb. It says what we want the students to do, but it doesn't say exactly how we want them to identify. So it could be a little bit more clear. We've got a little bit more clear here by clapping them. So that's actually the thing. We could get rid of identify entirely, and we might be able to rewrite this, but let's keep going. Let's look at the condition or the context. The context here is Charlie Over the Ocean. That's where we're going to be having the students do this clapping. So they'll accurately, that's the degree to which we want them to do it. We want them to do it correctly. And or when they occur, right? So every time they occur, we want them to make sure that they clap the triplets. And the triplets are the thing we want them to do. So is there a way to rewrite this maybe a little bit more clearly? Students will be able to right? That might be a simpler way of stating the same thing. Students will be able to accurately clap triplets when they occur in the song Charlie Over the Ocean. So we would have our verb is clap, right? There it is. Accurately is the extent to which, or the degree to which we want them to be able to do it, and or when they occur, right? And then the condition or the context is in the song Charlie Over the Ocean. So that might be a simpler way of stating the same thing. All right, how about this one? Students will be able to accurately assemble a song I have cut into sections on cardstock. So let's see, they're going to assemble. That's our observable verb. accurately is the degree to which they will do it. And then what it is, I guess I've cut into sections. A song I've cut into sections is the condition or the context in this case. All right, so this one could use a little bit more wordsmithing, maybe, or a little bit more specificity. We can't really know. Maybe this is something that we would go into the procedures and look and say, what exactly is the teacher wanting them to do in this case, in order to make this a little bit more clear. Let's talk about the difference in our observable verb between overt and covert verbs. The important thing about an objective verb is that it is something that you, the teacher, can observe. So let's go through this list of verbs and say whether or not it's an overt or a covert verb. So sing. Is that something that you can observe students doing and like measure their ability to do it? Well, yeah, that is an overt verb as far as I'm concerned. What am I going to do to say that, yes, that's an overt verb? How about understand? Can you observe a student understanding? Not really. That's not really an overt verb. That's something that they're going to understand whatever it is by doing what? How will you know that they understood it? So that's not a good descriptive verb. Play. Well, that kind of depends on the context, right? If we're talking about playing an instrument or, play 5-note patterns on, an ORF instrument or a recorder or, whatever it is, then yes, there we go. But if we say the student will play the piccolo, well, okay, that's not a really well-written objective, but, so play can be one of those things where depending on the context, it's great. How about justify? A student will be able to justify their choices. Yes. It just needs a little bit more work, right? Justify needs justify in writing, justify, or verbally, you know what I mean? So it needs a little bit of qualification. So that's one where we go, yeah, sure. Move. Students will be able to move in a certain way. Let's say they're going to step or clap. Ooh, we've got clap down here. We know clap is a good one. They're going to clap this, that, or the other. So move can be one of those. Compose. Students will compose 4-beat rhythms that include quarter notes and eighth notes. Sure. Okay, we can see them do that. Now, it might need some qualification, where they say, hey, they compose in writing, or, they compose by clapping, or, whatever the thing is that they're doing. You might need to go down into the procedures and say, here's how they're doing that composing exactly. But, that's something that you can see. How about see? Students will be able to see rhythms written on the board. Okay, well, how do you know that they're doing that? How will you know that they see the correct rhythm? What will a student do to tell you that they've seen the correct or the incorrect one? That's kind of a covert verb. That's not one that we can observe a student doing. How about for the same token, how about hear? Students will be able to hear the correct rhythm. Okay, but how will you know that they've heard the right one or the wrong one? Or how will you know the difference? The student is probably going to do something to let you know that they have, determined what is the correct rhythm or the incorrect rhythm, or, the melody pattern you want them to hear. So no, that's a covert one. For that token, I just use the word determine. Students will be able to determine the correct rhythm. Well, how will they determine it? It requires some qualification. That's one of those where we could probably go up and say, you know, with this other one, accurately identify, well, we had a by clapping them. And then we rewrote that objective statement to say, well, they're just going to accurately clap triplets when they occur. There you go. So that needs some qualification. On the same token, identify is the same thing. They can identify, but how are they going to identify? Well, they're going to identify by clapping. This is an okay objective. I'm not angry at it. If you turn that into me, I'm going to go, okay, I understand what they mean because they've been clear. If you just say students will be able to accurately identify the location of triplets when they occur in Charlie of the Ocean, I'm going to write you back and say, how will they identify it? And if you add by clapping them, I'm going to go, okay, great. Or you can rewrite it to say students will be able to accurately clap triplets when they occur in the song Charlie Over the Ocean. And I'll go very clear. So this is clear. This is also clear. If we take away, this and say students will be able to accurately identify the location of triplets in Charlie Over the Ocean, I'm going to write you back and say that's not clear. I don't know what exactly you want them to do in order to identify the location of the triplets. So identify requires a little bit more clarification. All right, let's look at some of these down here. Students will be able to have a thorough understanding of meter. What is wrong with this picture? Does it have an observable verb? To have? Not really, right? Students will be able to have a thorough understanding of meter. No, that doesn't have an observable verb. It doesn't even have a condition or a context. It's like, okay, I know they need to understand meter, but in what? What kind of meter? In reference to what thing? That doesn't tell me anything about observable verb or condition or context. And then thorough, well, okay, that's a degree, but is it a really definable degree? We don't know. Not really. So this is not a great objective. If you send this to me, I'm going to be like, yeah, I need to know a lot more. That's like a goal more than it is an objective. So if I want this to be something observable, I might say students will be able to conduct use 4-4 conducting correctly use 4-4 conducting patterns in how about a song that's in 4-4? Can we think of one, everybody? Maybe Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Or in okay, so what I would want to do there to show that the students have a thorough understanding of meter, maybe this isn't a thorough understanding, but I would want students to be able to use a 4-4 conducting pattern in Twinkle Twinkle Little Star to tell me where the downbeat is, right? So if they have Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, twinkle, twinkle, little star, I'm going to want them to show the downbeat at what would end up being the beginning of each measure of 4-4. That's going to tell me that they understand where the downbeat is and that there are 4 beats in the measure. So that is something that has use a conducting pattern, essentially. So there's a use a conducting pattern is my verb, and I guess use is the verb, but let's get the whole thing. And then we've got correctly is our And can I make this even better? Is there a way that I can make this even more descriptive? I can't even spell. How about using a 4/4 conducting pattern? How about that? Or even accurately conduct. Sorry, this is just me wordsmithing. But is that clearer? Using a 4/4 pattern, students will be able to accurately conduct Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Either one of them is correct. But this is, sort of our condition here. This is how we want them, the means by which we want them to do the thing. And Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is like our musical context as well. And then we've got conduct, right? That's a verb. That's an observable verb that we've got right there. And then accurately is the extent to which they would do it. Great. So either of those is correct. I think maybe the second one is a little bit more clear, right? How about students will demonstrate steady beat? Oy vey. All right, demonstrate. I think that's one of our, if we were to add another verb that needs some qualification, it needs just a little bit more. Demonstrate steady beat. Is there a way that we could do that, better? Sure. Students will be able to march a steady beat to, let's see. I could do that pretty easy, right? Students will be able to march a steady beat to When the Saints Go Marching In. So march is our verb. That's a thing. I can watch them march. And then we want it to be steady, right? That's part of the thing. That's the degree to which I want them to be able to do it. And then the context is When the Saints Go Marching In. That's the condition while When the Saints Go Marching In is being played or sung or whatever the thing is. So we want them to march. Steady beat is literally the thing. That's the degree. We want them to keep it steady and do it to When the Saints Go Marching In. So that is a better way of saying students will demonstrate steady beat. And then if you were looking at somebody's, lesson plan, that say you're a substitute teacher and you came in, just all of a sudden out of nowhere and you had to teach this lesson, this would tell you much better what it was that the teacher expected you to do than this. We'll demonstrate a steady beat. Well, the whole world is, at your door. I could give you an assignment that says, write a lesson where students have to demonstrate steady beat, and you could take it in a billion different directions. Maybe it would be clapping steady beat. Maybe it would be marching steady beat. Maybe it would be using a conducting pattern. Who knows? You could take it in a lot of different directions just based on what your whim is and what you felt like doing or you thought would, reach the kids the best. But this is very intentional. Students will be able to march a steady beat to When the Saints Go Marching In. That says, here's the song I want you to use. Here's the activity I want you to engage the students in and watch them do. And I want to make sure that they're doing a steady beat. So that tells you the degree, the accuracy, how well you want them to be able to do it. Because if they're not steady, they don't have it. They aren't demonstrating steady beat if they're not doing it steady. All right. So that's just a little review on what an objective is, how to write it, what you need, some of the verbs that you could or should use, how you can write a more descriptive objective that tells you what you need to know. And there you go. And again, if you guys ever have any issues, anything, you want to float by me, send an email, stop by my office, whatever it is, reach out. Do not struggle in silence. It's my job to help you learn to do these things well. All right, see you guys soon.